Hello everyone and welcome to our channel Homeopathy World. I am Dr. Samina and in today's lecture we are going to discuss about infanticide. We all know that infanticide is a very important question in forensic medicine and toxicology, your FMT exams. So let us see what is the meaning of infanticide and what is the medico-legal aspect of infanticide in forensic medicine. So let's start with definition of infanticide. Infanticide means the unlawful destruction of the newborn child and is regarded as murder in law. But the law in respect to infanticide is different in different countries. But in India, it is regarded as murder in law. It is also punishable under section 302 IPC by death or transportation for life and also fine. However, it differs from an ordinary murder as it is necessary to prove that the child was born alive. And what do you mean by a newly born infant? So, a newly born infant under this act is defined as one who is in the first year of its life. But in most of the cases, the infant is killed as soon as the infant is born. Whereas feticide is destruction of fetus at the time prior to birth and neonaticide is destruction of child in the first month. Infanticide is mostly committed by unmarried women and widows and sometimes by married women also. In communities where dowry is prevalent, female feticide or infanticide is a common issue, while infanticide of male children is done by prostitutes. And many of the infants are murdered if they are born with genetic defects in order to save themselves from the embarrassment of the society. Now let us discuss the autopsy procedures on infants and stillborns. So the autopsy procedure that is done on the infants and stillborns is known as Rokitansky's evisceration technique and is suited for the autopsy of infants and is very similar to the autopsy of adults. Here, the external examination of the clothing, appearance of the body, decomposition changes, maturity data, malformation and birth injuries, umbilical cord and placenta is done. While the internal examination of the head, mouth, neck, thorax, lungs, abdomen, genitalia, limbus and sternum and other viscera is done. Now let us see in detail what is the external examination and how it is done. The external examination of the clothes and wrappings should be done to find traces of mother's clothing or any newspaper or plastic bag or blanket, which can be helpful in identification of the mother. Now, appearance of the body should be inspected carefully to see whether the vernix caseosa is present and which is present for a day or two after birth, but it will be absent in the babies who have been given birth. Foreign body may be found in the mouth or upper respiratory passages, or any kind of violence mark could be found on the head and body in case of battered babies. Battered babies are those babies who face violence. Now, decomposition happens similar to adults, but in stillborn infants, putrefaction occurs only after the invasion of microorganisms in the body, that is outside inwards, while in live-born infants, it occurs within outwards. So, if the baby is stillborn, the microorganism will invade from outside and then go inwards, while in live-born infants, the microorganism will first attack inwards and then come outwards. The maturity data will help us to find the measurements and age of the baby and will also help in estimation of the intrauterine age of the baby during death. Examination of malformations and birth injury will give us the evidence and help us determine the place of birth of the child. As there are not many births with malformations, it is easier for the investigation to happen and it is easier to find where the baby was born. The umbilical cord helps in finding out whether the baby was strangulated by the cord. and placenta helps in determining the various placental and amniotic abnormalities. Now about the internal examination. The head is examined with a usual incision, that is ear-to-ear incision with the help of scissor, and meninges, fontanelles, lacerations and hemorrhages are observed. The mouth is examined and inspected carefully for stuffing of any foreign body in mouth. Neck is examined to see any injuries, foreign body or any puncture marks. Thorax is observed regarding lungs, diaphragm and viscera. Abdomen should be inspected for meconium, milk, poison, epithelium, blood and mucus. Examination of the dead body of a newborn child. The alleged mother should be examined for any signs of recent delivery, any condition explaining abnormal delivery responsible for injury to the newborn, mother's mental health condition. Now, what do you mean by stillborn or dead-born child? So, a stillborn child is a child born after 28 weeks of pregnancy and which did not at any time after being completely expelled from its mother breathe or show any other signs of life. That is a stillborn child. They often occur among illegitimate and immature children where the labor is unassisted and prolonged. There will be scalp edema, that is swelling of the scalp, cephalhematoma or severe molding of the head are the signs of prolonged labor and indicates stillborn child. A deadborn child is one which has died in utero and may show signs of rigor mortis, maceration or mummification. What is rigor mortis? Rigor mortis may occur in dead fetus before birth and is most common cause of antenatal hemorrhage in the mother. And maceration is a process of aseptic autolysis of the fetus dead in utero. It occurs when the dead fetus remains in utero for 3 or more days and in the amniotic fluid excluding air. And the process of maceration is aseptic as the fetus is enclosed in the membrane and is in sterile condition because it does not get any air from outside. When the death has occurred for more than 3 to 4 days, the body softens and becomes flaccid, almost becomes flattened out when placed on the table. Umbilical cord is thickened and soft and the skull bones override each other. They come over each other, which is an important sign called Spaulding's sign, which enables diagnosis of this condition when the fetus is dead in utero. If the air enters a membrane and if the membranes are ruptured after the death of the fetus undergoes putrefaction instead of maceration. Now, what is putrefaction? Putrefaction is characterized by nauseating and an unpleasant odor, green color of the skin, and formation of gases. Mummification results when death of the fetus occurs from deficient blood supply or when amniotic fluid is less. In this condition, the fetus is dried up and shriveled. It's shrunken up. So, what are the signs that will help you to conclude that the child was born alive? The child is said to be born alive after the complete extrusion from the mother, irrespective of attachment or severance of the cord. So once the child cried, had any movement of the limbs, had twitching of the eyelids, or had respiration or had pulsation, means that the child was born alive. Now, circumstantial evidence will say a witness who saw the child cry, move, open eyes or felt pulsations of the heart or of the cord will be accepted as a proof of live birth. However, mere cry or muscular movement or even twitching of the muscle cannot be totally constituted as proof, because a child may utter a cry either in the uterus or in the vagina and it may be heard even outside the delivery room. And this occurs when the membranes are ruptured and air has gained access to the uterus and the infant had been stimulated by some operative manipulation or asphyxia. And as cellular life continues after the death of the individual, there can be some twitching in the muscles even after the body is dead. And it is therefore quite unsafe to assume that the twitching of muscle indicate life. Now let us discuss about the hydrostatic test. Now hydrostatic test is a test which depends upon the specific gravity of the lungs due to respiration. Now the specific gravity of a non-respired lung in which the respiration did not occur is 1050, which is heavier than water, and that of the respired lung is 950, which is lighter than water. Now the procedure is the lungs are first cut out in lobes and then into pieces and then squeeze them firmly for water or keep some heavy weight on them to check the flotation. However, this test carries very little value in forensic medicine due to the following reasons. Slightest decomposition can alter the results of flotation test. If resuscitation attempts are done, it makes it harder to evaluate, or sometimes it's even impossible to evaluate the hydrostatic test. And there are examples that even lungs of a live born, that means a respired lung which has lived for days, may sink, and the lungs of a fetus towards the end of the pregnancy goes through a phase of trial breathing where there can be expansion of alveoli as a result of moving in and out of the amniotic fluid. Shapiro states that it is physically impossible to distinguish the lung of stillborn and live-born infants. So this was all about infanticide and the medico-legal aspects of infanticide, and also the hydrostatic test of lungs, which is very important in evaluation of dead-born, stillborn or a live-born infant. If you haven't watched my other videos, go to the playlist and watch those videos, and do comment in the comment section below if you have any doubts regarding this particular chapter. Thank you for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon to get the notification on our latest updates. Thank you for watching.